The following is intended for a mature audience. Proceed with the understanding that taboo and offensive material will be discussed. The revolution must be non-violent, and it must occur in our minds, thus being the evolution we need to survive. The Evolution Revolution Podcast.
We are live.
Hi, hello. This is the Evolution Revolution Podcast on IMN. Today we are glad to have back on again a former senator of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Kirk Ming-Hu. And since the last time we did our podcast, we have since syndicated his podcast on our network. So we're glad to have you on, Kirk, again.
I'm glad to be on. Welcome. Greetings to your visitors and to you guys.
Well, we're just talking to the IMN audience, and that's your audience too. So
absolutely.
So let's just get a little bit down to business here. So, a lot of interesting things happening in the political realm.
The waves.
Pompeo might be resigning to run for Senate or something. And we still don't know if Jesse Ventura is going to run for the Green Party nomination or not. You know, it's just so interesting. And you were telling me recently something that was happening in Trinidad and Tobago regarding a fight you were having with the deputy leader of the ruling party there, right?
Kind of, yeah. A little Facebook spat. There's elections going on. It's going to local government elections. So that's going to be held on Monday. I'll actually be one of the guest panelists analyzing it. But on Facebook, I've been pretty active. When I started out many years ago, it's about like 20 years now, I suppose, as a political analyst, a commentator. I was, non-aligned. I was independent, and I guess fiercely independent. I would criticize anybody and everybody, and praise people where necessary as well. But then later on, along with others, we started our own party, and then I kind of had to leave that a couple of years ago at the end of 2017, and I've kind of been on my own again. And I've kind of taken a stand for this election because I think for our country it's very important that we get rid of the ruling party, even though there are a lot of problems with the opposition. But I think just in terms of historical process, we need it. So I've been going pretty hard on Facebook, and I've been kind of articulating a lot of sort of ideas, ideological things, statistics, history, stuff that's not usually done. And I've been kind of upsetting a lot of people, and the deputy political leader has been responding and trying to counter me. So we were in a spat at one point when we were talking about some stuff going on. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say, like, it's just interesting because, you say it's on Facebook, and people don't realize the power of social media, and they tend to dismiss it as, oh, you're just, a Facebook activist, or you're just on, just on here doing this, arguing or something like that. But I think it's something that needs to be made a point of, that the power of focusing your energy, because it's like the way for our brains to connect. It's it's I feel the solution. So I just think it's interesting to point out how.
But speaking of Facebook, you were telling me that you go ahead and you tell everyone you're able to articulate it better.
Yeah. And just to continue off on Chad's point just there too, yesterday I landed a kind of body blow against the party too, because I got because through my Facebook posts and stuff, I got the Council for Politically Responsible Behavior to chastise or rebuke one of the I'm not sure if she's one of the deputy political leaders, but she's certainly a senior leader and senior minister in the government. So that kind of hit them hard there. Yeah. So, but yeah, what I was saying, because I think we were discussing, William, at the time there was some kind of ban. I think there was a 7-day ban going on IMN. I know I've been the victim of I've gone up to a 30-day ban at one point. I don't know what's after that. Maybe permanent after that. And my advertising account's been totally disabled. I've also had stuff on YouTube, but the head of diversity at Facebook is a Trinidadian, and it's people supporting the opposition party have put up a petition because they accuse her of manipulating Facebook, getting people banned, getting posts banned, in favor of the ruling party, because because Facebook is very active for us in Trinidad too, because I guess around the world, I mean, it's a way to break the established media monopoly, and it's a very active community. And so her intervention on Facebook is very important. Now, I can't say how true it is that she's actually manipulating things to favor the ruling party, but Marcia Braveboy, who is the one who organized the petition, she's certainly has made a case. She's put it out on change.org. And so, yeah, so there's that going on.
Well, I have to say, because I did point out that we have syndicated your podcast on the network, but it was a while back ago that we were given a notice by some state TV company. I think it was either Bangladesh or Trinidad, I forgot. So
probably
long ago.
Bangladesh, because I saw the script. It was Bengali writing. So
yeah. Okay, then I think it was Bangladesh. But
yeah,
for some reason they filed some sort of copyright strike on content that is legally under my name.
And the content was with whom? Was it with me, or was it with?
It was the intro that I created for you.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
It said 16 seconds of your video, if your live stream belongs to RTV or something.
Well, I'm being followed and watched, that's for sure. It's not the first time. So yeah. So I hope I don't bring. Yeah, I hope I don't bring spooks on you.
Well, hey, likewise. I mean, we're causing some trouble. That's the idea. I mean, for me, I see there's such an open lane for so much to be done, especially on social media. I mean, this is connecting. This is how people connect now.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing something different, then you're still doing the same thing. Things aren't changing because there's a reason why they weren't working before.
That's right.
So keep it up, and I'll just blame it on you.
Yeah. That's.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. But
it has been figured out. So it got figured out. So.
Well, was it that this is my guess, maybe a Bangladeshi company, made that computer intro, and then, something about copyright got confused if you purchased it from them? That's my guess. Would it be something like that?
Well, I purchased it from, I think it was Axiom Designs or something. I forgot what it was called.
Yeah.
So it's a layout.
It's in my file somewhere. That's how I filed the dispute against the particular dispute that was filed. But we've had a ban to where we had our reach robbed of us. We could still post, but our audience reach was completely robbed from us, and it's decreased. It's kind of decreased ever since. You see, we used to get a few thousand views. Now sometimes we're lucky if we get 1,000.
I mean, we're averaging at one point about 30,000 reach a week. So I mean, it was getting circulated, and And then of course it went down. But I mean, I still think people are, I still think some people are seeing things.
Yeah.
It's just there on 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 the end of trying to make it seem like something's not getting as much traction because people tend to look at it as a popularity contest
Yeah.
as far as to look at content or to listen to people,
Yeah.
rather than to, try and, hear where somebody's at. And I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you mentioned that, and I think it's in Australia. It's either Facebook or Instagram decided to try out a format where they erased the amounts of likes and shares and stuff, because as they were developing these platforms, that was the way to make people addicted, to make it like gambling, right? To so that you're like, oh my god, I got only this amount of shares, and that person has twice as much, and it was it's it's all part of this psyops. It's a psychological manipulation, and that's going on, and sort of, I had a great interview with Michael Rechtenwald from formerly from New York University, and he wrote an excellent book called The Google Archipelago, about how big tech is how they're dominating society. And he has this theory kind of how they're trying to create this like alternative virtual world, where they control everything. So when you type something in Google and they suppress certain results and raise others, you believe that is reality, and all this sort of stuff,
well,
and so
and
yeah, so this whole psychological
um,
manipulation going on.
I mean, you could see it right now with the Green Party and their basic requirements. So there's 100 signatures needed, and from a Green Party members, that in order to was part of the requirements. But they're
Right.
using this Google Doc that's, you can't really check to see what's going on, but they're not letting people get in front of people. But there's less than 1,000 people that have signed this whole thing. So
Yeah.
so they're giving people shit as if not getting a certain amount of signatures right away, or it shows like there's not many people active in the
Yeah.
party, that there's less than 1,000 people that have signed it, period. Because if they would promote things, if they wanted to actually get things out, then you're going to get more regardless. You're going to meet that minimum requirement because people are engaged, you know.
Yeah. 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 So
And I
when
also have to say that regular folks, let's say they're just a regular activist in the Green Party, I have to say, not everybody is literate in the internet activities.
yeah.
I'm barely literate. Chad's my expert over here. But
And I'm learning. This is the
Yeah.
way I feel like it.
but we have something going, so it's cool. We had something really going when we were getting thousands upon thousands of views, but now it's
Wh-
just
wh-
Facebook's decided enough of that chitter chatter.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just trying to use the example though of how they use, arbitrary things to make the illusion of the value of something.
Hmm.
Just because you have an echo chamber of certain people doing certain things, they try to paint that as the grandiose of what something is. When all you have to do is have a control environment in order to have the outcome that you want from that. And then you say, look, oh, you know, I mean, there was one of the requirements, for example, like they wouldn't let some of the candidates speak at one of the state conventions or state meetings because they didn't have enough signatures, for the presidential, you know. But there was less than 10 people that showed up to this entire state thing. So it's
Yeah.
like it's odd in the way that they manipulate. I'm just trying to go off what you were saying there because
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is what I'm fighting every day because then I mean it's censorship. The idea
Yeah.
is you want people to have a conversation, to go in and really battle these ideas out, and then allow the people to make the decision at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Give people, rather than trying to keep people out or trying to paint
Exactly.
paint the
I mean,
picture.
I have to tell you something, Dr. Ming Hu, because it's just with, again, I told you that I'm a member of the Green Party. I might not be any longer, because I'm giving it a few weeks. But one of the two candidates so far, the two candidates that are being allowed on the primary ballot, on primary ballots anyway, especially in California, they've decided that they hate, they hate democracy, and they want to have two candidates on. But like one of the candidates, as I told you, Howie Hawkins, is very hostile to Julian Assange. Like,
Right.
he just thinks that, oh, Assange is a racist and all this bullshit, right? And the other candidate, I just think, I don't know if he's pandering or not. Dario Hunter, I don't know if he's I've met him in real life. I've talked to him on this show, but I'm not gonna throw any smears at him, because not right now anyway. But it's just two candidates on the California ballot, decided by a whole bunch of bureaucrats that say, oh, we don't want these people representing our work. Like, no, how about you have the voters, decide that?
Well,
but as you told me, Dr. Minghu, in Trinidad and Tobago, governments don't even oversee the primaries, right?
Yeah, well, we don't have primaries, so I don't know if it's a better system, because the party does it internally, and it's kind of, in the major parties, it's kind of like the executive and the leader sort of, it's almost like the leader hand picks who it's going to be, right? But it is strange for us to think that the state is actually involved. Some people are calling for regulation of political parties to kind of prevent these one man shows. But there are pros and cons on both sides. I mean, but from the story you guys are telling me about the Green Party there,
I mean, Cynthia McKinney was the Green Party nominee in 2008.
Yeah, I mean, what you're telling me.
And let me just say this real quick. While Cynthia McKinney's former campaign manager anyway, for her 2008 campaign, she's from California, and she's being excluded from the ballot.
And that's because of what? They object to her ideology or something?
Well, they just object to like her behavior, and they don't want that representing the party. So like they're just gonna give two candidates with penises, by the way.
Well, it's like,
is there an official reason they've given, or it's just you kind of have to guess?
well, see what
they're just
hold on. Well, they voted in California.
Bureaucrats voted.
A body of people, less than 100 people, basically voted whether or not to have these on the ballot. But there was still a process to go straight to the California Secretary of State in order to do it. But see what it is, it's these people that they feel like they own the party. They feel very romantic about the leadership and making the decisions. Oh, this is which way we want to take the party. First of all, they're very aware that they're not going to win the presidency. So they want to keep the person that runs in the presidency very basic, something that for the average voter that's not really super engaged will be able to feel comfortable basically throwing money. Because
you look at the speaking styles of Cynthia, and then you look at the speaking styles of Howie. And it's just like Cynthia has so much charisma, whereas Howie, he's an empty shell.
Well, here, I mean, even on the, that's how it's really messed up for them to think that it's okay, and then we could talk about the minimization of what Russiagate is, because they don't realize that Russiagate and Julian Assange, they're intertwined, both the issues.
Of course.
It's so important because the propaganda, the cheating, how they're using the manipulation, how they use political power in order to hurt somebody's life. I mean, he was in the Ecuadorian embassy for years.
Yeah.
Years. So there's so many things to unpack from it, but they, a big Hawkster, echo chamber.
Now, let me tell you what a lot of people are saying now. Because they're largely targeting me. They're targeting Chad too, even though I'm not running for president. I'm not running for your dumbass Green nomination. I'm not even supporting any of your candidates. No offense to you, Chad. But like, cause I'm just, and maybe when they reform their shit, I'll decide to support a candidate. But until then, like, I'm 2 weeks away from heading over to the Secretary of State's or whatever, and like changing my registration from green to independent because I'm done.
Well, that's what we would find weird, that you register with the state what party you support.
Yeah,
that's
I know that's
weird.
foreign to you. I know that's foreign to you.
There's and there's different. But see, in Tennessee, you don't register with the state. There's not a party affiliation.
Right.
As far when you register, it's getting the party on the ballot or getting your individual name on the ballot. There's different requirements and stuff. So that's what's really messed up, is like there's so many different things in different states and stuff. So nobody's really trying to grow the party. They're just trying to kind of keep the status quo, and because if it's small, they can control the reins. And even Jill Stein, they were talking about, she called a few people from the Massachusetts Green Party, the Rainbow Green Party, about trying to keep us candidates off the ballot for the primary.
Okay, Chad, you said you were going to provide some evidence.
Well, hold on. Well,
okay,
point being that this was spoken openly in their meeting, so it's not like it's it's not like it's
now
not
who exactly said that openly in the meeting is what I want to know.
The guy's name is Danny. But
Danny who?
I'll get his last name. I'll get you all the information.
Okay.
As far as I'll get a statement and stuff. But it's clear that these people, want to hold on to the reins, and you got to ask why. Why are you trying to prevent somebody from talking, or why are you censoring somebody from calling out the shit that needs to be called out? Like,
and so many of the candidates that are not Howie and are not Dario, even though Dario I'll say this for Dario, has not said a single negative thing about Julian. Okay, we'll give him that.
Well, Dario,
but like, we're not going to allow the other. We're only going to have pretty much he's trying to facade himself as pro Assange now after that the disastrous Primo Nutmeg interview. But he's we're only going to have Dario, who I'm not I want to see all the candidates who are pro Assange, who again, like Jimmy Dore said, and this is something that what's his name, the guy who David Rold said, but Jimmy Dore and David Rold share this opinion that Howie is spreading CIA talking points about Syria and about other
but it's Sand himself.
Yeah. So but I mean, like, I'll give Howie this credit. He didn't go so far as to say that the whistleblower and the publisher stuff should be protected, but he just kept like he's so scared of being perceived as pro Assange that he wants to go ahead and because Assange asked of Jill Stein, Gary Johnson, and Donald Trump to contest the election if that hag who wanted to drone strike him won. Okay, he requested that of all three of the alternative candidates to Clinton. But the conclusion that Howie draws from that is that Assange is a racist for requesting that Donald Trump Jr. or whatever contest the election if that hag who wanted to drone strike him won.
Well, the thing is it's not always about what someone says. It's about what someone doesn't say. And when you're asked about Assange,
I mean, talk is cheap. Cheap.
Well, when you're asked about Assange or you're asked about Russiagate, these things, it always starts back with the DNC leaks. It starts with them showing that they rigged the primary, and when they rigged the primary, and then it came out with the Podesta files, which showed how they organized the whole thing with the Piper strategy and all this kind of stuff. I mean, this stuff is the proof, is the smoking gun. I mean, it's enough to. it's enough to put these people in jail. First of all, if Trump was serious about putting these people in jail, they've got all the proof they need. But
Yeah.
that's what RussiaGate's for, is to move the goalpost and make it about something else. Because everybody that's went to jail concerning around Trump has just been for regular corruption, which,
Yeah.
if you go
Nothing to do with
right, so because they won't go after anything that they're you know, actually involved in as well, or they're going to double down that he did it. Because what else did WikiLeaks reveal? It revealed that Uranium One, about them taking money and selling the Uranium One selling uranium to Russia. The
Yeah.
And
Clintons are
like
the one.
Danielle St. John told us, I'm not sure if, but Manning revealed stuff about DynCorp.
Yeah.
And this is something that's been a very big interest of Cynthia ever since she was in the U.S.
Yeah.
Congress.
Yeah. And she was this close to Jeffrey Epstein how many years ago, exposing it live. Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's I just
So what are your thoughts, man? Like, what do you
I
think
mean, we
about
know you
American
are
politics?
we know you are a professor in political science, so
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm a layman, so go
yeah.
ahead, do it.
No, I just find it very curious, the way the Green Party, from what you guys are saying, they're acting like, such huge gatekeepers. I mean, you can understand, like, if you're at a club and you got like 1,000 people trying to come in and you can only fit 100, well, then you have to figure out a way to gatekeep. But when the capacity is 100,000 and you only got 1,000 people outside and you're still gatekeeping, that kind of doesn't make sense to me. That's the analogy that seems to fit with the Green Party. They are stopping people from coming in because they've already decided what the party stands for, and if you deviate, if you behave in a manner that isn't according to them by the Green Party standards, then you won't even be allowed on the ballot. So they are. So yeah, they have ossified already. As opposed to letting the membership determine an evolving ideology. This is very interesting, actually, because it's kind of like a Marxist party, right? It's almost like a Marxist Leninist party where the ideology is defined first, and then you bring the people in, and then it's like the Greek myth Procrustes and the Procrustean bed, where he put people on a bed, and if their limbs were too long, he'd cut it off so they fit, or if it's too short, he'd stretch it out, right? So that's the great imagery of the Greek myths, and that's kind of what what they seem to be doing, rather than with more I don't know what to call it, populist or organic parties, let's say, where the ideology evolves with its membership. So, but they don't seem to want that. They this little group of 100 electors seem to know what they want, know that it's not going to get them elected as president. So I don't know what their function
And
is.
they are ever so scared to even have Sydenham, who was Cynthia McKinney's campaign manager. I know they had a falling out, but the two of them, but still, like, she managed one of the campaigns for a former nominee, and you're
Yeah,
not going to respect her enough to put her name on that ballot, at least her.
yeah,
Like, she has the most signatures, I think, of all the particular candidates who haven't raised as much money as Howie and Dario, per se.
that's
But
Cynthia's former manager.
yeah, former campaign manager.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
Cynthia, she's more of a free agent now. Like,
Yeah.
when Jesse Ventura offered to make her running mate, she was all for it. But I think she's completely turned off from the idea
Yeah.
of running for president again.
Is there a problem with her returning to the States at all? Is there any
No,
sort of...
she was back in the States just a while ago, but I think she's in China now. We're
Okay.
gonna do a few more shows later on. I think it's probably best if we do it when she's in the United States. The connection's more secure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if if yeah, I wasn't sure if she was exiled in any way.
Yeah, I
Not not
mean, she was the corporate media, just shat on her image entirely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, you just mentioned that the connection is more secure in the States, but I'm not sure if that's true. I mean, um, in fact, I think a lot of the reason why Facebook and is it Google, but definitely Facebook, probably Google is not allowed in China is because they knew from the start it's a CIA spying thing, right?
Well, I mean, the Atlantic Council is like, helping them with their digital research forensics lab, something like that,
Yeah,
in which they try to decipher, okay, is this foreign propaganda or is this that or is this that? Meanwhile, they're accepting funds from Saudi Arabia and
exactly.
Israel, and they don't want to allow, the Russian perspective or the Chinese perspective, or, it's just like, I like all perspectives. I like the clash of
Yeah.
ideas. I love the evolution of ideas.
Yeah,
You know,
and in the United States, there's such thought police, So I mean,
I mean, we talk about memes. We talk about memes all the time. And a lot of people don't know, but the word meme was coined by evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins
correct.
to describe the evolution of ideas, or like just how ideas evolve.
Yeah,
And I mean, now, they're just,
yeah, the
an
cartoon. Yeah,
image with text.
but it's supposed to be like memes were the cultural equivalent of genes. For
Yeah.
genes for biology, memes were for culture. What genes are for biology, so that there were cultural memes that passed on from generation to generation, and they would evolve and mutate. So that was the idea he put, and then it became funny pictures.
Yeah.
but it was a way, but it's not an idiotic phrase to use, because these memes were a very quick, concentrated way to spread ideas rapidly throughout the society, because nothing nothing could work to change a culture as rapidly as these funny pictures. But these funny pictures were subversive, right? Were absolutely subversive of
To the
ideas.
point where I think the EU did some sort of regulation on memes, right?
Yeah, they wanted that, so you couldn't share memes.
And I
You would
think
have
that's
to,
kind of why Galloway is vehemently pro Brexit. He's like leftist on a lot of issues, but like, he's just, and I think, and Galloway has been a long proponent of the theory that Jeremy Corbyn, they were friends for 3 decades before
yep.
they had their falling out. But like he's been a proponent of the theory that Corbyn is actually secretly pro Brexit.
Yeah, and that's probably it, because um the old socialists were also nationalists, like George Orwell's brilliant essay The Lion and the Unicorn, and a lot of his work was that you had to love your people, you had to belong to a people as well. That's I mean, what you're fighting for, not just some abstract idea, because what he saw in the fighting for abstract ideas is kind of what's going on in the Green Party, right? I mean, whereas you sacrifice a whole bunch of people because of this ideological
But
purity.
it's not even. So that's the thing. It's not even. They're not even following the values. It's not even the purity part. That's the
Yeah,
problem. It's that
it becomes
it's
just
they
I mean,
understand. Well,
grassroots democracy is supposed to be one of our values.
right, the 10 key well, yeah, it's one of the 4 pillars. So
Yeah,
what they're doing is, they're using the resources to manipulate to get it out of the party. So like Jill Stein was the nominee for 2016, right? So her Facebook page has almost 600,000 followers, and what is being done on her page is this Green Way Forward, which her old campaign manager Cobb runs. So they do this weekly show sending people to this Greenway Forward, sending resources out. And then what are they sharing on the GP main page? This Greenway Forward, but they're not sharing diddly on the campaign, what's going on, any kind of expose on the candidates, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. They're saying, hey, here's our candidates. The primary is supposed to get people involved, and they understand, you know the value of the nominee. And see, that's why I ran, and why one of the reasons why I'm running is because I understand the importance and the power in the nominee, and you could really give the party a boost with the right nominee. That's what it's about, because that's the mascot.
I just wanted to relay something to the audience, because Nicole Castor and I, we've been fighting like hell, and she's a representative for the Howie Hawkins campaign.
As
I
well
s-
as on as well as
but
voting, and for all these people.
let me
Oh, go ahead.
let me finish. So like but like originally she said, "Oh, Howie's not my candidate." But then there's this fucking article when she met with Gloria Rivera, where she's indicated as a representative for the Howie Hawkins campaign. So she can't tap dance around that anymore. But she was laughing at the fact that Chad only got 6 votes among the bureaucrats deciding the ballot.
Yeah.
So 6 of your bureaucrats, and you still ignore those 6 bureaucrats because you don't. You see, it's psychotic.
Yeah. I mean, so then she should be loving Hillary and Trump because they got more votes. You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, that's basically so. That's how they frame it. That's how they set it up. Yeah. They want to apply things to you that they don't want to apply to themselves.
yeah.
And which how he's been a member or whatever since the start or whatnot, and he only has 250 signatures. Like on the one thing, like, come on, like, if I've been doing it for 40 years, like,
I mean,
and,
let's
and,
bear in mind that for the Socialist Party nomination, because he did get that, but like he barely beat Elijah Manley, who is 20 years old, my age.
Yeah.
He barely beat. It was like a 2 of 3. That was the ratio. Like if all of Elijah's delegates showed up, Elijah would have won. That's what Elijah said.
Yeah. So it's like Howie has only 250 more votes than me, and I'm not even running.
but there's your point. Like, so but what they do is they shame, they down talk, as in it's the value or like the extent of my character, what I'm able to bring to the process. And so the other thing is like, you should run for these smaller offices first before you do anything. Like, motherfucker, I'll run for whatever office I want to run for. I'm a grown ass man. I'm running for president.
Yeah.
Don't tell me, like, it's one thing to ask me, do I recognize I'm not going to win? Because first of all, it's electoral college that decide
Yeah.
at the end of the day. I understand there's mechanisms in place. I understand the process. Of course, I recognize that there's a uphill battle all the way, and that there's still stuff they're going to stop. They can stop you to get in. You know what I mean?
Dr. Minghu,
Go ahead.
this sparks my curiosity. How did you become a senator?
Yeah, well, the way it happens in Trinidad is that the Senate's not elected; it's appointed, right? So it's and there are 3 types of appointments: one by the Prime Minister, and then another set by the Leader of Opposition, and another set by the President, right? And so I was appointed as an independent senator by the President, so not aligned to any of the parties, and yeah, and it was because I was a prominent columnist, TV personality, and so forth, and political scientist. I had recently launched my book on the history of Trinidad politics, and I launched it at the House of Commons in the UK, and so I was a well-respected political commentator, and so he had invited me to be a senator in that term. So that's how it works here. So it's quite different from the way the U.S. Senate works, or even.
So what do you think about what happened in Bolivia? I'd like to get your take on that.
I haven't. And in fact, I'm going to be speaking on my podcast this week with someone who is much more familiar with it. He's the Americas coordinator for the LaRouche movement. But yeah, it appears to me, to be a counter coup right? So it seems that the I don't know what I'm moving beyond this right and left rhetoric, right? So I mean, in the old days, it would have said it was a right wing coup, but I would say it's an establishment coup that's going on, a kind of liberal globalist establishment. That's what it is.
Well,
And
yeah,
mhm,
yeah, but like it's like with this thing, it's like the natives haven't got any representation until this particular president,
yeah,
and it's like, and they just force him out, and then you have this woman holding up the Bible saying all these things about they got to go to the chakas or something, like face the native satanic natives away to the chuck. It's just like
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
such a theocrat.
Yeah, and it's like descending into civil war. But you see, but one of the things, right, about this, now I don't know specifically about the Bolivian case, but in general, the way it works is that you see the kind of normal everyday American culture, when it's transposed into like Latin America or the Caribbean or Asia, it becomes seen as something for the elite. So like it's amazing the way like a place like TGI Fridays, which is in no way some kind of upscale thing in America, but when it's in the Caribbean or Latin America, it's kind of like a place where the middle and upper middle class go, right? Or even like a place like Pizza Hut, right? I mean, it's quite less so now than it was in the 90s when it first came here, but there's this weird transposition, so that these people, right, so these Bible, this Bible toting woman, right, so on the one hand you'd think of it as a kind of Christian fundamentalist or whatnot, but they would also be the people totally into like Hollywood culture, TV, kind of American popular culture, and they are, and in many ways they might think of themselves as being, almost American in a lot of ways, and so they are hooked up into sort of liberal America in a way that the masses might not necessarily be, and that the masses then might have some very illiberal aspects about their cultures as well that would offend liberal sensibilities, right? So this is why, and even in Western and American context, this is why a lot of like liberals are kind of they're down on the rednecks and the uneducated masses being, politically incorrect, or so the liberals find themselves in this paradox because they like to see themselves as being for the masses and for the people in a lot of ways, but then but not actual people. It's like all these kind of liberal, um, you know, liberal advocates for open borders that live in gated communities, right? And their children don't have to go into crowded schools and
It's
face a lot of the
it's
social integrated
like
problems.
it's like a novelty. Um,
Yeah,
and I only say that because I understand from my own kind of ignorance, my own kind of upbringing, and in the way as the white boy, sees culture, and how I was taught it, and I didn't understand it. I'm even understanding it more and more as I get older,
yeah,
as I'm reintroduced to things that I was taught when I was younger. You know what I mean? Like movies or shows, or I mean, we're facing that now with the outrage culture in general. Like, everybody's mad about everything, and even though some people may not have any intent to, it was their memories are built off something else. It's like
yeah,
I can't watch like the new Jack Ryan, right? Is the anti-Venezuela kind of thing, and
yeah,
real propaganda stuff, and I can't even watch it. But now watching like an old Harrison Ford, movie, like there's some propaganda in some of those old movies, but I didn't understand it, so it's easier for me to watch it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's not a connection,
That's right,
as I say.
exactly. And then I find it curious. I mean, and it's so complex in so many ways, because then in your situation too, right? I mean, you're calling yourself a white boy and whatnot, but on the other hand, I mean, being from the South, you're totally despised by the, New York and California, elite, right? Who look down on anybody with a Southern accent as,
racist or
racist, inbred, uneducated, all these
the
stupid
stereotypes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I mean, like these New Yorkers. I don't mean to offend all New Yorkers, but I'm going to talk about Howie Hawkins specifically, because, like, again, he's so quick to brand Assange a racist or a racist whisperer or whatever,
yeah,
because he again he asked a candidate, the main opposition candidate, to another candidate who literally said she wanted to drone strike him.
yeah.
Drone strike.
So basically, he's got Trump derangement syndrome. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't know, because there are other things people have pointed to about Julian Assange, which I don't take as strikes against him or anything like that. But how he was raised in that kind of Aryan kind of commune in Australia. You know that about his past?
No. But
Yeah.
see,
But and his mother had to escape it and all this kind of stuff. And all these children with platinum blonde hair and and stuff like that.
oh
So
wow,
there's this kind of weird background. Yeah. So she had this kind of weird background, and that made him a hacker at age 13 and stuff. He became this kind of anarchist, and he was one of the first people to hack into the U.S. military and all this kind of stuff. But he has an amazing story that people just aren't aware of. I mean, it's way before Bradley Manning. I can't believe I can't remember his original name. I should probably look it up while talking.
Chelsea.
Chelsea and she.
Chelsea
No,
Manning.
Yeah, no. He had a hacker name as he was maybe 13. Julian, I'm going to look it up right now. Julian Assange.
Oh, you're talking about Assange.
Yeah, Assange.
No, we were saying Chelsea because
right.
Bradley goes by Chelsea now.
Because Howie made a mistake like that too. But
Mendax, that's it. Mendax, tracks and prime suspect. So he was a hacker named Mendax, and he was I think the first. There's a good Australian movie made about it before he became popular, about the Bradley Manning, Chelsea Manning leak, right?
Yeah, let me tell you something funny about Howie though, because it was interesting because first, during the Primo Nutmeg, Howie calls Chelsea he and Bradley. But then, right after that interview and all the scrutiny, he still, Howie still continued to call Chelsea Bradley and he during the debate while people were calling him out. Because it just feels like to me he has an inbred hostility towards Assange and Manning.
And here's for me, but let me say this about that, because we're talking about it now, is the conversation is important to have, because there are going to be people that don't understand or don't feel that they have to say whatever, to call somebody he, she, like it's a big issue. So there needs to be an understanding that people are on their own timeline, and and I think that would have been a good opportunity to have that conversation about that with how, and especially if you're corrected. For me, if I'm corrected and it's something that's insensitive, and especially when we're talking about it, I want to be corrected, and then I want to address the issue, so I think
it's complicated by the fact that when the information was leaked, he was Bradley.
He was I see what you said, right?
So, do you understand?
So like the reports are Bradley before, and now it's Chelsea. So it's like
so
I mean, it's again,
accurate. You have to say he at a certain point,
right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
but there's a nuance of the conversation that's not had. It's always either super extreme, because you have to understand that sometimes people don't know what to say, and sometimes even being uncomfortable not what to say makes the elephant in the room bigger when you it could have been something less. I
mean, I guess I can get your point, because timelines and stuff, because Caitlyn Jenner was not Caitlyn Jenner when she won all those competitions.
Right,
That was
When I
Bruce
was a
Jenner.
kid, I used to eat, was it
Wheaties.
Wheaties? Yeah, with Bruce Jenner on the front like that. I mean, so yeah.
Well, and not
I
only
mean,
that, there's the thing too is like you've got people like and for me, that whole family exploits anything and everything. So
Absolutely.
so that's even a harder subject to have when it comes to that family, because
Exactly.
you can actually have a case to say that he's doing it for a different reason.
They
You know what I mean?
I mean,
monetize everything.
Right, everything.
their
I mean, look at
family,
Kanye.
their family proves to me that we don't live in a meritocracy. Okay,
Yeah.
because like their children are now becoming like billionaires, and
Yeah.
they never took any risk. Like entrepreneurs, to be an entrepreneur, you have to take a risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Caitlin. I mean, what's her name?
Kylie.
Never took any risk.
Yeah.
You know, like if she failed in her cosmetic thing, she always had mommy, dad, or everybody just fall back on. Sister to fall back
She
on.
gets paid over $1 million per post on Instagram.
Yeah.
This, it's not
Not a
even.
meritocracy.
It's not.
Not a
Well,
meritocracy.
and we were
It's a
we were talking about,
corporatocracy.
it's reward. It's a reward system and how they do it, and that's what they want to magnify and illuminate to the public. Because I mean, look at it. You got Kanye. They've done more damage to the black community, to black men, that whole family, in the way that the black exploitation is crazy with that family
Yeah. Yeah.
and how they do
Yeah.
it. And so I try to make a point to say, yeah, I mean, when they're balling up and selling this type of woman, this type of attitude, they make it like, you're supposed to get, like, kudos for being able to deal with a woman like that. Any man that's gone around them is fucked up in the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone.
And to get on the transgender thing a bit more, right? Because then Bruce, Caitlyn Jenner wins what, Woman of the Year or something like that for Vanity Fair or something. I can't remember what magazine. And I mean, and real women were outraged, and they're shamed for that, right? I mean, it's seen as a terrible thing to say, real women. I mean, you could use a different word, but a born woman, you know what I mean?
Right, and that's
And then now they're entering into transgender. I mean, into women's sports, and
I mean, this has been a huge topic of discussion for because again, I think this is an issue where my nihilism really turns on, because like whatever sound you want me to make with my mouth to show you respect, I'm going to make that sound, because like at the end of the day, my nihilism really kicks in, and I just start to view this issue like as a nihilist ape, because I just start to view everybody as mutant monkeys, because then you have these people who have never had a period before trying to influence the, because like
there's got to be a line to,
there has to be a line,
a balance.
women can welcome people who are born with a penis into their gender, but just know that you never had to suffer through the pain of a period, through the pain of a childbirth. That's some stuff that's unique to a biological female.
And that shouldn't be something that is made to make someone feel like they're being insulted. So like it's
I mean,
it's
biological
manufactured
males,
consent. It's
I mean,
engineering.
Biological males are inherently, well, just on average, stronger than biological females.
Yeah.
So I just, I don't know. I feel like, again, this is just another issue that makes my nihilism.
I've been kind of developing this idea over a long period, and there was something that triggered me to think about it some more, about the cliquishness of American and Canadian society, because I did grow up in Toronto, and I understand that as a teenager, how cliquish it was, what kind of, and music was a huge thing in high school. So like what music you liked, and even if, it's amazing here, like when I used to come to Trinidad to visit before I actually lived here in the 80s, like my family and stuff, and there were people here that liked, so in the 80s, right, so there are people that liked hardcore thrash metal, and normal heavy metal, and they didn't see it as a problem. Whereas up in, Canada or the States or whatever, that was a huge thing. The hair bands were over there, and the thrash people were here, and the hardcore people were there, and the punks were there, and the ska people were there, and all sorts of stuff, and these tiny little things, and it's so arbitrary. There'd be these tiny little things, like how pointy your shoes were, or the brand of shaker knit sweater you wore, or whatever, and it just became all these arbitrary ways to create cliques. And I think that underlies so many things. And I think a lot of the things what you're saying here about this kind of politically correct culture and shunning people, oh, they're not using the right pronoun, oh, they're not they're not woke enough about this, oh, they're not, it's just another way to assert that intensely cliquish type of mentality.
But on the same, I want to push back a little bit. But when it comes to Russiagate, when it comes to certain things that are so important to the of what it means, that it's one thing to not know and not understand. It's another thing to pretend that this stuff's not going on, and what what I mean. It's what you're not just all of a sudden the problems start when Trump got in the office. That's not when the problem started. So there, I mean, there is a balance, and
what's your point about Russiagate? I elaborate on that.
Well, the point is about the cliquish thing. Like, I'm pretty, as far as like, no, when you said like, calling people cliquish and names about their viewpoints on certain things. So what, it's one thing on wedge issues or boiling plate issues that, you've got all these things that are confusing, like we're talking about. But I feel like something as Russiagate and what it is so concrete to not know what it is, allows someone to be called a Russiagator, not to exclude them from becoming, but it does separate people in ways to have conversations, because people.
But like, here's the thing I have to say
Does
about
that make
this.
sense?
Here's the thing that I have to say about this. Can Howie evolve on it? Yes. I think the thing that's being portrayed right now is a fake evolution. I do not for a second buy Howie's stick in the fact that 60% of the delegates, which is California, are pretty much going to be dictated by the decree of a few bureaucrats, just in this primary in general. For 60% of the delegates, only two choices listed.
Well,
so.
but does that make sense though? I feel like there's certain issues that you either get right because you understand what's going on.
No, that's true. There are some issues that are real, but the point I wanted to make about the Russiagate thing on my end, which might be a different point from what you're making, and your point is valid, but it's that like, you see, the culture of exclusion is so intense and almost total. I find in American culture, right? So it's kind of like the Mean Girls thing, right? So like, if you're out of the group, that's like a huge major thing, right? And so if you don't buy Russiagate, so what you're telling me, from what I understand, is Howie is terrified of showing any sympathy towards Assange and maybe not believing the Russiagate story. So he wants to go with this.
I wouldn't say he doesn't have the sympathy, because he didn't go so far as to say that what's happening to him is okay.
Okay.
But he paints Assange as this person who's just self-absorbed and kind of that alludes to him being a racist.
Well, that he was in it for himself, basically, the whole thing, and
I mean, being like, I'm sure, Assange wanted to be held up in that embassy.
Exactly.
Well, I mean,
he has been so self-sacrificing. There have been few people in history who have been as self-sacrificing as him.
So it's not to even exclude somebody. It's not what I'm saying. I don't think that people that don't believe Russiagate, are excluding people. Like I think it's a different type of attitude. I think the people that buy into it by default because of that mentality, they feel automatically that they have to exclude people because
Yeah,
you're not
that,
because of
that's
Russia.
exactly it.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
exactly. That's
so
exactly. So he can be kind of maybe invited on MSNBC if he has that kind of view. If he has this little critique of Assange and he's not seen as a supporter, he can maybe get on MSNBC
But
on
like,
a
but here's the thing: like, Jill isn't like, again, say what you want about Jill. I know Chad has his accusations, and we're gonna see those accusations and the evidence he has to provide.
Mhm.
But the thing about Jill is she goes on MSNBC all the time, and she does not shill for the anti-Assange narrative. She's never called Assange
Okay.
self-absorbed. So
Right.
like, it's like, so like
Okay.
with Howie, it's just like he still buys into that propaganda to an extent. So like, I
Yeah.
don't trust him to be the leader of my party. And honest to God, if he is in the way that it seems like he's gonna be, especially with the only two candidates
Yeah.
in the state where 60% of the delegates exist, I'm probably just gonna register independent and to hell with the Arizona Green Party, because they're like, a whole bunch of them are just disrespectful as hell to me. So
Right.
I
And
mean,
so
just the people in leadership though. So it's not
what's the uh story with Jesse Ventura then?
okay. So okay, this is a long
well,
story.
Yeah.
But
basically,
let me start here.
okay.
I know how to explain it better, Chad. We both know this, but
Well,
but
I
let
was
me
just gonna
hydrate.
make it shorter. That
Well, I think I can do that. So okay, so back in the year 2015, this is when it first sparked my interest.
that's well,
Jesse Ventura
not like
Jesse Ventura
not
asked,
about you, about Jesse Ventura.
but yeah,
Go ahead.
this
Go
is
ahead.
when I first got interested in it. But back in the year 2015, Jesse Ventura asked Cynthia McKinney if she wanted to be his running mate, right? So this was the spark to my interest, and I did a whole bunch of research into it. There are files upon files on IMN itself that just describe this timeline. But I'm just starting at this basic timeline when my interest first got sparked. But he asked Cynthia McKinney if she wanted to be his running mate. She said, "Hell yeah, baby," or something equivalent to
Right.
that. And then things went on. Jesse,
And that was for the Green Party.
well, no, it was Jesse wanted to
Libertarian,
run. He wanted to run independent with
independent.
Cynthia,
Yeah,
because he was highly allergic to political parties.
Right.
And I think, and I fundamentally understand that now.
Mhm.
But because like one of his quotes on it is it's better to have, I mean, it's no better to have a 3-headed dragon than to have a 2-headed dragon.
Yeah.
That's his quote on it. But anyway, a while back ago, Chad and I and a guy named James Young, we basically developed the think tank, talking about, trying to weigh the pros and cons of a Jesse Ventura run.
and
And
this was after he had got some press, like TMZ ran into him, and he was talking about it. He was talking about on Jimmy Dore, talking about on Joe Rogan. He keeps saying green, 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 and so for a lot of people that voted Jill Stein, may not be like completely, see, that's the thing. People don't look at the voters as there's a difference between the insiders, the people that are super engaged, that know what's going on the internal stuff, and then just the regular people that say, oh, I'm green because I voted for Jill Stein, or I'm green because
Yeah.
I'm not one of the other people.
I mean,
So
Oliver Stone voted for Jill Stein, but
Mhm.
like, a lot of people in the Howie camp are now calling Oliver Stone a rapist. And
I mean, they're like talking down about Jimmy Dore, like they're pushing Tulsi Gabbard propaganda, and
I mean,
just the way they're framing it.
Tulsi. I mean, I think Tulsi has her faults,
Well, of
but she
course.
has never lamented her personal feelings on Assange. All she says is, "This is an outrage. This is a warning to everybody. Don't you dare speak up. Don't you dare don't you dare challenge the foreign policy establishment, because if you do, look at Julian, and we're going to do this shit to you.
Exactly.
And so like that's Tulsi's point on it, and she's never. Oh, and she thought
Well,
Julian talked to Donald Trump Jr. to contest the election.
well, I mean, the thing is there's two separate issues here to talk about. One issue is to talk about, what your platform is, or what it is you vote for, or your issues. And the other one, it has to do with voting strategy, because
Yeah.
people vote different strategy than
Yeah.
their views, because they do
Yeah.
things, so that's why the voter shaming is the stupidest thing you could do,
Yeah.
because you're supposed to figure out a way to get people to voter strategy,
That's
not
right.
you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
I try to separate the two. So I feel like it makes it easier to discuss it. Then people don't feel like, they don't feel like, because they don't have anywhere to go. You got to pick somebody, and for like someone like Jimmy Dore, I give Jimmy Dore a pass for not having anybody else to the lessest of all the evils, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's doing so much good work for the progressive movement.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love him. I love him. I wish I could get him on my podcast.
he's fucking awesome. And see, and it's knowing, having your ear to the ground, knowing the pulse of what's happening. So not knowing that Russiagate was false until a couple months ago is a big red flag. Boom.
Yeah.
Not knowing the real impact of Julian Assange and what's going on, and then that's what you bring up. Boom, that's a red flag. And then, I mean, obviously now, because Jimmy Dore says that the guy's the death of the Green Party,
Yeah.
like they're going to talk down about Jimmy Dore, but
I mean,
well, let me
again,
finish this, because I was going to say, we talk about it, and I only talk about it because I care about the party, and this is just a small example of what's happening on a larger level. Hawkins is, insert, D-list politician here,
Yeah.
and it's going to be the same thing. It's just, this one just so happens to be so bad, such a bad choice, that it's revealing the mechanisms. They can't even hide it, because now they have to prop it up even more. They have to double down.
But
Well,
like,
Ralph Nader was green, wasn't he? Right, for one of the runs he did.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, and then
Yeah.
then I
I
believe
mean, he was. I mean, so the Greens have had some, substantial candidates that have really, impacted the process before, and for them to settle for,
but
what you
like, I just gotta say, a lot of people on the Howie team, because Oliver Stone said that Howie's take was nonsense, they're now, they're branding him just a capitalist,
Yeah.
a rapist, because of some accusations that were never proven in a court of law.
Yeah.
They're labeling him all these things because they don't like their candidate, because he doesn't like their candidate.
Yeah. It's a very infantile.
And they're calling a capitalist, like the guy who was the guy who was literally like Hugo Chavez was
Exactly.
in love with Oliver Stone, like that. Like I'm bisexual, right? And they're hetero, but I have never seen a gayer thing than Oliver Stone and Hugo Chavez.
Yeah. No. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. These late again, and this is what I see. It's what I was.
And you're
talking
next to
about earlier.
Venezuela. You're next to Venezuela.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I mean, he's been here before and all this stuff, and we have a lot of dealings with Venezuela. But I mean, yeah, it's what I go to. Like, they don't really, when they say he's capitalist or a rapist or whatever, they don't really mean the words they say. What these are like markers for exclusion, right? So it's like, in the what is it, Nathaniel Hawthorne Scarlet Letter, right? It's like a scarlet letter to put on somebody to exclude them and to banish them. It's this whole sort of banishment culture. The cancel culture is related to that. It's like, oh, this person is outside of the pale. It's, I don't know. It seems to be part of the kind of American Puritan tradition in a lot of ways to kind of label people outside of the pale. In the 50s it was for communists, and now it's for like white nationalists or climate deniers or whatever, or
I mean,
anti-Semites
we went over this in our last podcast together
Yeah.
that we did on the Evolution Revolution podcast. We were just talking about, seeing past left and right,
Yeah.
how to, development, all that stuff. But like,
Yeah.
it's,
Well, it's like the same thing in your churches, your schools.
Yeah.
It's like this hierarchy kind of thing that
Yeah.
you get in line and
That's right.
don't speak out, and if somebody's doing something, go through the chain of command and listen and follow orders, and it's I mean that's one of the things that they're you know serve your time, put your time in. I've been in this long. That's like, so what? You failed at it this long
Yeah.
time. You like, why am I going to?
Yeah. It's like seniority kind of thing.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
I have something to bring to the table. You want me to wait, what, 30 years to bring
Yeah.
something to the table? Like, just because you waited your time, like that's
Yeah.
not the way it goes. Like, you don't own the party. You don't. So I mean, so I know we're talking about this, but we're so entrenched in the politics, and since I'm running,
Yeah.
it's just it's just again it's an example of what's happening in
I mean,
every
I've
industry.
given it. I mean, I've personally given it like 2 weeks before I register independent.
Yeah.
That's because like I know, like, if the Green Party doesn't earn me back by those 2 weeks, I'm heading over and I'm saying no party preference. That's what
Right.
the fuck I'm saying.
Well, I think that's a little bit ridiculous, but that's all right. That's all right. The idea is to bring people in, and I look at it like this: if there's less than 1,000 people that are in their little echo chamber, all we got to do is bring 2,000 people, and they can't say shit. I mean,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
or 100,000 people. I mean, Jimmy Dore's got half a million,
Exactly.
himself.
Exactly.
If they were doing so great at bringing people in, there would be memes. There would be already kind of green stuff going. But that they don't want that. You said that you wonder why they do that. It's on purpose. Like they don't want anything radical on purpose
Yeah.
because
They're satisfied with being a big fish in a small pond.
well, they keep saying, oh, we run people at the local level. Yeah, but it's the national that gets people excited about your party, so they run at a local level. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So but they know that, but they don't acknowledge that. Either there's some cognitive dissonance there, or they literally want to keep the reins of it. Because I mean, 100,000 people donating $10 is $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, there's big money in politics and the speaking fees. So I think it's more about that. Like these, it's
Yeah.
high school politics, and they want to.
So, Kirk, we have had a pleasant conversation. Would you like to close us out?
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure, talking to you guys, finding out about the inside of the Green Party politics. It's fascinating. I mean, I myself was with this, small party in Trinidad, so it's really interesting to see what's going on. And of course, I mean, in the American context, it's a much bigger and more powerful and influential country. What happened in America affects so many other places. So it's really fascinating to get that. And I'm glad to be on IMN. I'm glad to be talking to you guys. It's nice to have this interaction. And I just realized you're 20 years old too. So I'm 50. I'm going to be 51 very soon. So it's a big generation.
And I'm 38 too. So
Right.
there,
That's cool. Yeah. It's big jumps, but it's great. It's great to get the dialogue. I
perspective.
like that.
And I was telling about William, if I was where William's at 20, I'd be, way further along. I feel like a dummy. I mean, like, once you learn that shit ain't what they say it is, then there's the rabbit hole. You got to
Exactly.
keep asking questions. So.
Okay, Chad, play that beautiful outro.